All right. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Professor.
How are you doing?
Pretty good.
Hello.
Good, good. So, I want to make sure if you have any questions, talk to me and ask me questions. What I want to do today is I want to get through the urinary system, and then after that, I want to talk about the exam a little bit and give you an idea of that. And then after that, I want to do sort of a practice quiz like we've been doing. How does
Do
that
we
sound?
have another class next week too?
We do absolutely. Actually, we do on Monday.
Okay.
Although I have a feeling people are then kind of like ready for the test, and so we'll just probably have a fairly brief class next week. I think. I want to make sure I give you guys more time to ask questions, and also the other thing is we can do another practice quiz if you want, and I can talk about those things. Okay.
Great.
Because then after that, it's pretty much going straight into the test for the week. And then that gives you at least, because so then next week, there's no Wednesday class as well. There's just a Monday. And then I can be available if you need me to, but I want to make sure the test is open for as long as possible. That's kind of the thing of that. Because then Friday, I think, is when Friday's the 28th, right?
Yeah, next Friday is the 28th.
Yeah, and so Friday, then that at midnight Friday, everything closes, and so that's
Oh, so we got until Friday to get the exam done.
yes. So that's
But
then outside of my
if we
control.
finish all of our homework early, can we do the exam like this weekend? Like, it's open for us to do it?
I open it Monday after school
Okay.
class. I open it Monday after class because, yeah, that's usually how I do it. I do it after the last class, and I just don't have a Wednesday class. Where is my syllabus? I'm just not going to have a Wednesday class next week. And so then you have that Monday evening through Friday night.
Okay.
Is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And yeah, so if we're talking about that, let's actually dive first into. I mean, you always just interrupt me if you have questions, but let me dive into the urinary system right first, and then because it's not that much to talk about on that from the test perspective, but I just want to kind of get through the urinary system a little bit as it comes to let me see. As it comes to the main functions, those are listed here, and then the structures, we basically talk about that in the lab portion, in the test review portion for here. But what's interesting about the urinary system, you got the kidneys, and the kidneys are these filtering systems that filter the blood and make pee out of the whole thing, and that way we can get rid of some substances that we need to pee out, like the liquid waste substances we can get rid of through that system. But then also we have the adrenal gland on top of it, and we talked about the adrenal gland when we talked about the endocrine system. And also when we talked about, well, we didn't really talk much about the adrenaline kind of part, the epinephrine, the autonomic nervous system, but we did a little bit on that in a couple of questions on the quizzes, and that happens here in the medulla, is the adrenaline system, where the adrenaline gets released into the bloodstream. But then when we talk urinary system, we mainly want to talk about how the blood comes into the kidneys. And we have a slide here where you can see all the blood coming into the kidneys, all these named arteries. And then, of course, the names of the veins are the same. They're just called veins versus artery. But then once we get deep into the kidney, we have the arteries bring the blood to these Bowman's capsules, to these glomeruli, which are capillaries on the inside that have little cells that cling around on it, making an interesting, where's that podocyte thing? making an interesting looking thing where they cling around the capillaries and making slits, like filtration slits. And so physically then the blood comes into the glomerulus, into that little corpuscle, that round thing, and gets filtered through those slits, and then the filtrate gets made in there. And so we make about 170 liters a day of filtrate. That's a lot of filtrate that gets the blood squeezed out into these tubular channels. And then from those tubular channels, the filtrate at that point is called, will go back to the bloodstream, most of it, because we only pee out about a liter or a liter and a half. So quite a quart and a half of liquid we pee out. And all the other parts of that 170 liters gets basically then reabsorbed into the blood vessels that hang around this tubular system. And we talk about that in this slide here, where we talk about the filtrate. That's the process of making that filtration, that filtrates, filtering out the blood through those filtration slits and making that 170 liters. And then from there, reabsorption is when the filtrate, the liquid gets put back into the bloodstream. And then the last process we have is where we have secretion of substances that we want to get rid of, like liquid-based medications or things like that, that we can process through the kidney and pee out and get rid of the system that way. But that's active. That's often an active process where the substances have to be brought from the bloodstream into the tubular system of the kidneys. And so that process is known as secretion. And then from there, the liquid eventually goes and gets peed out by going to the bladder, from the kidneys to the bladder, and then from the bladder through the urethra to the outside world. And so we pee it out. And so what I need you to know in terms of, and that process is pretty interesting. One thing that I do want you to know is the concept that water follows salt. The concept that if we actively take salt, let's say out of this filtrate, we take salt out of this filtrate, the water will follow it and then and get pulled with it. And that's a concept I think is important when you talk about the physiology of the kidneys, or anywhere in the bodies. But the water follows salt, so you can actively take a sodium out, or another salt for that matter as well, and then water will passively follow that. It's kind of like when you cut a tomato and you put a salt on top of the tomato, and you go back a few minutes later and there's a water droplet instead of the salt molecule, so the water will be attracted, the salt attracts the water. And so we use that concept a lot in the kidneys, and that's one of the mechanisms how we're going to take that filtrate and put it back into the bloodstream. So I think that's probably one of the main concepts there, universal concepts that I want you to understand. And other than that, let me have a look at the review system. It says, as blood passes by the kidneys, blood plasma with dissolved substances is filtered into a long tubular system of a nephron, and then that's what we describe here, right? What I talked about, this tubular system. So that's what you need to know for the test. And then the filtrate flows through various tubular segments, as most substances, and 99% of the water gets reabsorbed. And that's what we talked about here. So that's what you need to know for the test, that reabsorption thing, back into the blood. And then reversely, many substances are actively secreted into the tubules to be excreted from the body. And that's what I talked about, that secretion. So those are the two main points you need to know about this system in terms of the test. And then the other portion of that is the laboratory part, and we have the kidneys there somewhere at the end here, right here. And what I want you to know when you look at the term list is the cortex on the outside of the kidney, and the medulla is the inside of the kidney where it gets darker a little bit.
I have a question.
Yes.
I was confused between the medulla and the renal pyramids. It looks like they're pointing to the same thing.
Yes, the pyramids are structures in the medulla.
Okay, like inside of them.
Right. So this is the area, is the cortex is here, and or here, and then the deeper part is the medulla. And so the pyramids are these structures that are in the medulla. They're actually three-dimensional. It just doesn't look like a three-dimensional. I think in the pictures in the booklets, it looks a little bit more like three-dimensionals. And there you have those renal pyramids. They're like upside-down pyramids that then drain into the renal pelvis, which is right in this area. Oh no, first into the renal calyces. These are these funnels that the urine gets collected in, and then that's the renal pelvis, and where all the calyces come together, and then that feeds into the ureter, which is here, and then that goes to the bladder, and from the bladder it goes out to the world. And so that's sort of how that works there. But that's the medulla is here, and then on your list we have the renal pyramid. So that one of these dark things here is a renal pyramid. And then the renal pelvis is this structure here. And do I have renal calyces? So those are these funnels. I don't differentiate for the test between minor and major, but the first ones you see is a minor, and then they feed into a bigger ones, and those the major. So they differentiate that when you look in anatomy books. And then we also have the glomerulus. So that's what we can see over here, is these round structures are the glomerulus, and they are over here as well. And so you see that blood vessels coming in and then going out from here, and then the capillaries are inside of this shell, this round cup sort of thing. And then there's these podocytes that are clinging around it. They make filtration. On this side, you see those podocytes. On this side, you don't see them. They're just the capillaries. But basically, all the fluid from the blood gets squeezed into here and then goes into this tubular system that's reflected then here, going wiggly around first, then going down into the medulla, coming back up, and then some more wiggles, and then it goes into a long stalk that goes all the way down into a pyramid, then feeds into a calyces, then the calyces, and then the ureter, the bladder, and then out. And so what happens is the blood gets filtered in the glomerulus, and then the filtrate travels through the proximal convoluted tubule. That's this first section that's called here proximal convoluted tubule, and then it goes down, and that thing going down is called the loop of Henle, and then it comes back up. It's still the loop of Henle, and then at the end we have more convolutions going on, some wigglies, and that will be called the distal convoluted tubule, and from there it feeds into the collecting duct, and the collecting duct feeds into the renal calyces and then into the ureter, and that will be, that's part here is the ureter. There.
And so are there multiple of those systems with the nephrons, or is it just one?
There is millions of these systems inside the kidneys.
Okay.
So this is just describing one of the functional systems that the kidneys work, how they work. But there is millions of those in each kidney. See all these little dots going up and down? And so there's tons of those in there, and all collectively together make the system work. Does that make sense, Tenaya?
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then the other thing that you want to appreciate is, as we briefly mentioned with the sodium, and I can pull sodium out of the tubules and bring it into this interstitial space, and water will follow it. And then the water, what we'll do is the liquid will go into the blood vessels. that a lot of that happens right in here in this area. And if you take a further physiology class, it will get very complicated of like, what's the molarity of this area and why is this happening and so forth. And you will describe that. But fundamentally, it's about ions getting pulled out of the filtrate and then the water will follow it. But the water will have to go, the liquid will have to go into a vessel system, into a blood system. And this you see here, this blue and red venous and arterial kind of hanging blood vessels here, that network actually hangs around all this vasa, all these loop of Henleys, and is right there to receive the fluid that comes out of the tubules. And so it kind of want to superimpose those in real life. But what's shown here, this part here that's hanging around some vasa recta, this the capillaries, those are called the vasa recta. They're hanging around the loop of Henle. So these are called the vasa recta. And so then, you know, that's a lot of the fluid gets from the filtrate back into the blood system around the proximal convoluted tubules and then around the loop of Henle. And then down in here, we just modify the liquid volume of the liquid a little bit and see how much do we want to put back into the bloodstream and how much we want to pee out. And then from here on down, we just basically collect the liquid that we're going to pee out. All right. So far, so good.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that is not that complicated, huh? Then, I mean, it can't. The kidneys get quite complicated, and you get to deeper the physiology. So when you do a class, just go back and keep in mind that water follows salt. I think that's one of the concepts you want to take away from here. All right. Because with that, if that's the case, what we should do is we should do a quiz and we should call it quits. So you guys can go home to your evening and do some more studying or just not studying, depending on what you like. Sound all right?
Yes. Sounds good.
Good. Take out a sheet of paper then. And we're gonna go right here, start at the heart. I would like for you to tell me, please, on the open heart, what are these types of valves called? Number one. Oops, these types of valves. Number two, I would like for you to tell me what is this vessel called that comes here out of here and goes around the heart, this vessel. This vessel here going around the heart. Number three, when I look at white blood cells, I like you to tell me the ones with the granules in the background that are bluish. And number four, if I go too fast, you slow me down, okay? And number four, I like you to tell me the cells that are large and have a pink background on this model here. All right, then let's go to the brain. Number five, I like you to tell me this white stuff here, which is the connections between the right and the left hemisphere. So that part here, that landmark. Five. Well, they're all landmarks now. Number six, since we're on this part of the brain, let's tell me about the hindbrain, this brain here in the back bottom part of the brain, or the head, I should say. That's number 6. The cauliflower brain. The cauliflower brain. Number 7. What is this lobe called here? Like 16, like that area here, this lobe. The whole lobe. That's number 7. Number 8, I want you to tell me the name of this wiggle that's reddish here. That's in front of the central sulcus. The wiggle in front of the central sulcus. Number 8. Then number 9. I like you to tell me. So this is this is spaces inside the brain filled with cerebrospinal fluid. So I would like you to tell me the space here that's right in between the thalami that holds cerebrospinal fluid. What's that space called? That's number 9. Right here. And number 10, I'd like you to tell me, what is this yellow bulge called in the spinal cord? What is this yellow bulge called? Number 10. Number 10. The number 11. I'd like you to tell me, what are these little nerves called that go into the front of the spinal cord, or actually come from the front? They're motors, right? So what are these called here? These first come right out of the spinal cord nerves before they connect together with the ones coming from the back. That brings us to number 12. Number 12, I'd like you to tell me the spinal nerves that follow down the low back before they exit their, respective foramen. What is that area called? This collectively spinal nerves. What are those called? Number 12. Number 12. Looks like a tail on a horse. That should give it away. Number 13, we're going to go to the ear first. What is this structure called right here, which is where the sound waves come in and then they vibrate this membrane? What is this called? Number 13. Number 14, I'd like you to tell me, what is this round snail-looking structure called in our inner ear? And that gets me to number 15. And number 15, I'd like you to tell me, on the outside of the eyeball, we got this thing here, this structure. What is this called? Number 15. And number 16, What is this muscle called? It's like I see the tendon of this muscle right here. This white thing. What is that muscle? It's a muscle. Or it's the tendon of a muscle, but I need the muscle. Number 16, that is. And then number 17, further down, lungs. There we go, lungs. What is this structure called that? So it starts at the larynx right here and brings the air down before it splits into the bronchi. What is that structure called? Number 17. Number 18, what lobe is this? What lobe is this? What lobe is this? Then number 19. What is this structure called? 19. What is this structure called? Right here. $19 right here, and 20. I'd like you to tell me this structure over here, the whole thing, this whole thing. That's number 20. And then 21. Almost done. Couple more. What is on a kidney? Let me back that out a little bit more. On a kidney, what's this region called? This region. What's this area? This area region called? 21. And number 22. What is one of those round structures called? One of those round structures. 22. All right, good. We're getting somewhere with these. Let's see how you did on those. I want to hear as many voices as possible. We're going to go backwards. What's number 22?
Glomerulus.
Glomerulus, very good. And then number 21, what's this region?
Cortex.
Cortex here, medulla here, excellent. And then we go right to the, what's this called?
Liver.
The liver, good. And then from the mouth to the stomach?
Esophagus.
Esophagus, very good. And then we go to the lungs. And we have a little big here. Let's go slow it down. What's this lobe called here?
Middle lobe.
The middle lobe.
Good. Superior, middle, inferior. On this side, superior, inferior. So on the right side, left side, we only have one. I mean, two, not three, okay? You got that. And then what about this structure here? This structure here.
Trachea.
Trachea, excellent. And then from there, we go into the eye. And we did the muscle. What muscle was that?
Superior oblique.
Good. Superior oblique. And what about this structure over here?
Lacrimal gland.
You guys are good. You got that. And then we go right into the ear. And we did the snail-looking structure.
Cochlea.
Cochlea, excellent. And then the eardrum, right?
Yes.
What's that called?
Teardrum.
Tympanic membrane.
Tympanic membrane.
membrane.
Very good. Tympanic membrane. And then we go to the spinal cord. What's the horse's tail called?
Cauda equina.
Cauda equina. Very, very good. We have the tip of the spinal cord. That's the conus medullaris in there as well. And then we have, what do I have? These little nervies coming out in the front of the spinal cord. What are those called?
Anterior root.
The anterior roots. Excellent. So then we have, when individually there are the anterior roots and the posterior roots, and then they come together into a spinal nerve. And then my next question is, what's this yellow bulge called here?
Dorsal root ganglion.
Good. Dorsal root ganglion. Excellent. Good job, you guys. And then we're going right to this structure in here.
Third ventricle.
Third ventricle. Excellent. And then this red one, this red gyrus. What was that one?
Precentral gyrus.
Precentral gyrus. Excellent. So we have precentral and postcentral. So those are the two gyruses, two wiggles I want you to know. And then we got the lobe here on the side by the ear.
Temporal lobe.
Temporal lobe.
Temporal lobe. Excellent. And what about this structure in the back here behind?
Cerebellum.
Cerebellum.
Cerebellum. Very good, you guys. Keep that starting up. And then what about this connection between the right and the left hemisphere?
Corpus callosum.
Corpus callosum. Very good. And then we go right to the blood. We have these big ones.
Monocytes.
Monocytes and the blue ones.
Basophil.
Basophils. Very good. Very good. And then I ask you about the artery that goes around on the outside of the heart.
Coronary artery.
Circumflex artery.
Circumflex. So the circumflex is a branch off of the left coronary, which is right here. So coronary is a good answer, but it comes out of the heart here, or the aorta, and then it goes right down as the anterior descending, and the other branch that comes out is the circumflex. So it changes its names. So arteries kind of have that tendency. They change their names. It's like a freeway system. You don't think of freeway system when you think of arteries like that. And then last but not least, what about these valves?
Semilunar valves.
Semilunar valves. Excellent. Good job, you guys. All right. So let's see. Was that helpful?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So what I want to do is I'm just going to read up roll a little bit, but I want to do next week. Basically, we can talk questions, answers. I don't really have much on the reproductive system for the test because it's usually so close before the test. So the quizzes are really the main thing there. And then, so make sure you have some questions for me for next week. And then we're going to do a big quiz like today, or even bigger a little bit. And then you're ready to go. What do you think?
That's cool. Yes, that's cool.
All right. Any questions? Any questions at this point that come up right now?
On the test, if there are any spelling incorrect, will we get?
Let me talk about the tests. Let me take that pressure off your soul here a little bit. Hold on. Because this is, we're getting to the end here, so we can be a little nice, hopefully. So the test is multiple choice. So even, let's see, can you see my test?
Yes.
Yes.
Good. I'm glad. Let's see. It's a little slow. I got a lot open. But so the first questions are these true, false, and other things, right? These multiple choice kind of questions. But as you go down, the anatomy questions at this point are multiple choice. So you don't have to worry about spelling.
Oh,
Okay.
cool.
Nairobi. All right. So this, right, I kind of usually keep it a secret till the end because it makes it much easier. But even for the lab portion of the test for the final, you just have to be recognizing. You don't have to spell it out.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. So sorry, Prof. Is it also a time test?
Yeah, it's 2 hours.
Okay.
65 questions, 2 hours. I think that should give you enough time. It's all multiple choice at the end of the day. You don't have to spell it out. But I want you to have your term list with you as you do the test, and you want to have your 4-page review with you as you do the test for sure. And that should get you through the test.
All right.
Thank you. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, of course. You guys did great work. You're really good students. All right, so let me take some roll and then we can call it close early. So I got Nairobi. Give me feedback.
Here.
I got Adam.
Here.
I got Tenaya. Sarah.
Here.
Anna.
Here.
Lashana.
Here.
Rosie.
Here.
Heymanot.
Here.
Emmanuel.
Yeah.
Edwiges.
Here.
Viviana.
Here.
Narcy.
Here.
Lhamo.
Here.
Scarlett.
Right here.
Lydia. Lydia. Briana. Briana.
Here.
Nita.
Here.
All right, Lydia. All right, so as far as that's concerned, we can close it out early and just make sure you know if you have any questions that come up that you need to talk to me or so, just give me a text and we can solve the problems that way. If you need some past assignment open that you haven't finished and it looks closed, I can open it. But everything will close on the 28th. So just make sure of that. And I have no recourse on that. That's just when Canvas closes for me to accept work. The quizzes are finished then. If it's like, you know, a lab to finish up, you can text it to me. We can definitely work that out. But basically after the 28th, everything is kind of closed. But until then, make sure you get me for help to open things so you can finish up work. All right, with that, any last questions? If not, we can call it goodbye.
Bye,
Professor.
Have a good one. See you next
Have a
week.
good evening.
Thank you.
Enjoy it. Bye-bye.
You say
Thank you.
bye.
Bye. Good. Good work, you guys. I'm very proud of all of you.
Bye. Good night.
Bye. Good
Adios.
night.
See you next week.
Bye-bye. Good job.
Bye.